Very good afternoon, everyone. This is Rahul Bagadia, co-founder and director from P Manifold, and I welcome you all for this very interesting webinar. This is based on our work supported by Shakti Foundation, jointly done with Ernst & Young team. This project and this webinar focuses on low voltage DC fans and how do we bring scale to solving energy efficiency and energy access problems in India. We have intentionally picked one of the key appliances that we have looked as part of the study. We have looked into other appliances as well. I use this opportunity to welcome my fellow panelists. They come from all very detailed and grounded experience in this space, coming from OEMs, coming from Discom, coming from microgrid operator, and coming from international programmatic intervention areas. So let me quickly use this opportunity to set the context for my fellow speakers and panelists. Let's look into what's the fan market in India, right? We are in India, we have 55 million fans getting sold on a yearly basis. That's almost 71 billion Indian rupees market size, which is an average of rupees 1300 per fan. And if you look into market share of fan category less than rupees 1800, that is almost greater than 50%. Of this, the energy efficient DC fans using BLDC motor, that share is almost 1%. And the value of it is a $1 billion industry as it stands today. So one thing we are really looking in this webinar and through the expert discussion is like how do we move this 1% number to a much higher 50, 70 and 80% to get the advantage of the energy efficiency that DC fans offer over our current conventional fans. Just to give you some numbers, here we have used some numbers. Our conventional AC fans, ceiling fans consumes 70 watt power, while DC fans now one which are available in market, they do 30 and even less than 30 watts, and we are talking of a net saving with a payback in 16 months. So this is the advantage that a DC fan offers. It's known to most of us who are attending this webinar. I think in this webinar we really want to focus how do we now drive the market for higher adoption, higher production and higher consumption, and how do we do it in a right manner, putting less burden on the government and possibly more through market mechanisms. With that being said, while I already told that ceiling fans, the energy efficient DC fans are operating with efficiency of almost 60%, but they come at a price point premium of almost 65% higher than normal conventional fans. And this is true for other DC appliances, the energy efficient appliances, where on average we are able to get 50% energy efficiency and savings, but the price premium in some of the cases goes even 100%. This is especially true for refrigerator and other appliances. As again, one of the objective, while focusing on BLDC fan, low voltage DC fans in this webinar, I think the insights will also be useful because other appliances are also motor driven appliances, mostly using DC motors, how we can set off and create a market mechanisms. One thing that we have looked into this study with Shakti Foundation, I think there is agreement that DC appliances are energy efficient over the conventional ones, but they are now used in two systems, one powered by AC system and second powered by DC system directly, mostly coming through solar. So this becomes two type of installations which needs to be handled, and currently the market is split. So even though you have a DC fan available in the market, but most of these fans have their AC to DC converter integrated into the overall fan design, and they can be run only on AC, right? And then now there are separate suppliers who produce fans very custom to smaller needs where it can be run directly on the DC. This approach and split into the market is not allowing economy of scale to be built in production of BLDC fans. So one thing that we attempted to study, and through this webinar we will discuss it more. We have Atomberg speaker who are actually producing this kind of fans. Like, what is the advantage of keeping your core design of DC fan intact and modularizing your AC to DC converter as a separate appendage outside your designs, so that this same fan can now be sold to a customer who wants to run it in a DC system. And if he wants to run this DC fan in an AC system, he is allowed to buy an external converter, AC to DC, and run this same fan. Can this approach allows economy of scale to build up, and what more it could need to really take it to the market? For technical sake, we are not calling this appliances hybrid, we are calling it as AC-DC appliances. So these are inherent energy efficient DC appliances, and they can be run either on AC or DC supply. So that's why we have created a new category of appliance calling AC-DC appliance. I think the big picture I have already discussed, like what we want to do through this energy efficient market creation. We are saying, can we bring this energy efficient appliance price parity closer to the normal appliances? If we are able to do that, bring the premium down from current more than 50% to maybe 10%, 20% or lower, I think it can create a very good case for energy efficient DC appliances. I think in our case study, you will hear like how with more DC fans and DC appliances and motors and controls, there are more inherent control and automation features that can be appended into the appliances like remote controls and others, which can create aspirational value for these appliances in addition to energy efficiency building. And of course, the third benefit, like the user gets a choice to operate these appliances either in AC system or DC system. While there is a change, I think in India it is evolving little slower. People are adopting more and more rooftops, but it's not captive rooftops. We are still putting all on the grid and continue to use AC supply. But I think as the system evolves, there will be more and more inherent captive use of solar, which may create a need for an existing appliance to be now run on pure DC system. So how this interoperability from the source side can be tapped into this new appliance market. These are the four options. As I said, like as part of this project, we looked into recommending standards, how we can create separate standards for DC appliances. So one of the key objective for this thing was like how we allow this appliances to be run on both AC and DC power source. So option A and option B, this is actually would require the appliance to have two separate inputs, one for AC and one for DC, and the user will make a choice which supply he wants to run this device. Of course, this is a costlier option. Now the option C and option D will have only DC input that the appliance would be able to undertake. And now this appliances would need a separate outside AC to DC converter, right? If we are able to standardize the utilization input DC voltage for the appliances, and this can actually vary from appliances to appliances. So there is an opportunity, there is a scope that we may not need any DC to DC converter. But if the appliances, the OEM and the industry agree that by the design it is better to have an appliance of 48 volt standard or 24 volt common DC input standard. And because India has now recently agreed and committed for 48 volt DC distribution system, we would need a separate 48 volt to whatever agreed, let's say 24 volt DC standard. So that will be option C. And if the equipment industry can actually agree on 48 volt DC input for the appliance, then we are saying we don't need any separate DC to DC converter, and it can be a simpler option D arrangement. So this is a top level architecture for the standard that we have proposed to BIS committee for fans and under discussion. These are some of the details around this particular discussion, but the more important point was around the service value, because the whole objective of looking into DC fan is to really bring energy efficiency, and what performance standard can be defined for this new class of devices. Just to give you a benchmark, India currently is using 1 to 5-star rating, and Bureau of Energy Efficiency, they have defined 5-star rating, which is greater than 4, what they call it as EE service value. That is defined as anything greater than 4 will be classified under 5-star labeled fans. BLDC fans, however, are able to give as high as even 6 and even higher energy efficiency service value. So one recommendation would also be that we do a re-rating of our energy standards for fan and accommodate higher energy efficiency service value for 5 standards to push the supply side to attempt for these higher standards. There is another standard, IS 374-2018, under consideration with BIS and B committee on standardizing fans and also making it part of mandatory standards like other appliances. So I think it is expected something in 2020 to get operationalized. With that, I think while standards for utilization voltage, which we are attempting through AC-DC convergence concept, is one area where we are hoping that with agreement amongst the industry and a standard getting put up by the regulatory forces can allow to bring economy of scale and price reduction for BLDC fans. There would be need for other interventions, including better financing mechanisms, creating trust in our users for this new class of appliances. So these are some things that I am requesting and hoping to also learn from our very experts speakers today. Now with that, setting this context, let me introduce today's speaker. We have Manoj Meena. Manoj is CEO and co-founder of Atomberg. Atomberg is one of the early manufacturers of BLDC motor-driven energy efficient fans and also other appliances. Manoj will talk more about his organization and current things. They are one of the biggest suppliers and producers in BLDC fans. He is an IIT Bombay grad and also in Forbes 30 list. Then we have Shekhar Khadilka. Shekharji is AGM Tata Power Mumbai. It's a private Discom running in Mumbai. And he heads the DSM and power management at Tata Power in Mumbai. He is credited for undertaking many DSM initiatives, including running an initiative for BLDC fan. He will share his insights and what he thinks can be taken to the bigger and more discoms in the country. Then we have Neil Tamhane from Solshare. It's a very emerging new startup, very active in Bangladesh with 30 plus microgrids, but recently also some experience of setting up grids in India. They have piloting peer-to-peer network using solar, and he will share some of his insights and ground learnings from consumer behaviors on adoption of these appliances and directly using DC power. We have then experts from United for Efficiency U4E. It's an alliance which is working with 30 plus countries with UNEP, United Nations Environment Program. We have Dr. Bruno Lefait, who is an international lighting expert, and Solda Gracia, who is an expert on energy and sustainable development. So they will be sharing some of their learnings from global for bringing and focusing not just fans but other energy efficient appliances. And I look forward for a very useful discussion. Just as a few note to our audience and participants, there are some polling points that we are conducting in between. Please use these polls, share your insights, while our speaker share their expertise and experience with you. So with this, I request Manoj, our first speaker, to share his thought and his experience around BLDC fans. Manoj,
Thank you, Rahul.
great Manoj, your voice and screen both are audible. Please continue.
Okay. Thank you, Rahul. So I would briefly explain you what Atomberg is doing. Atomberg is today manufacturing energy efficient brushless DC motor based ceiling fans, and we are one of the largest manufacturer and distributor of this technology based ceiling fans. We started in 2015, and till date in last 3 years we have been able to sold more than 4 lakh units across India. So here I would like to cover mainly how we are, bringing AC to DC convergence in BLDC ceiling fan, so that our products are compatible with both AC based grid as well as on DC systems. So if you see on this presentation left side is our generation 1 motor, which we launched in 2015. At that time, both electronics, so electronics has two components which I try to divide in. One is AC to DC converter, and other part is motor drive. So in initial design we used to have both these electronic components inside the motor. In our latest design, that is on the right side, generation 3 of motor, which we launched last year, we call it Renaissance model. It is already there in the market, and so there we tried to differentiate, divide AC to DC converter part with motor drive part. So in this design, AC to DC converter part is mounted below the bottom canopy, and motor drive is integrated within the motor. So there have been lot of advantages which I will cover in next slide. This is our successful launch in the market, and this product is performing very well. I would like to share you some of the numbers. Like within the launch of this product, till date we have been able to sell more than 50,000 units, and we have collected feedback from our retailers, from our distributors. We have been collecting feedback from consumers directly, even service partners. So everybody has appreciated the effort we have put by separating AC DC converter part with motor drive. So these are various advantages which we have collected from the feedback from the field. So number one is service is a big problem. Like this is a fairly new technology for any electrician to service a product. Electronics is a new element which is bringing in the inside the motor, and most of the electricians today are not aware of this electronics inside the motor. And most of the failures which we have encountered on the field were related to AC to DC converter. So it made good sense, to separate out AC to DC converter outside the fan. So today, if you see in the image on the right side, the above part is AC to DC converter, which we have successfully bring outside the motor. Now any electrician could do quick service with no time. We keep spare parts with our service partners, so any electrician could do the service. Other benefit is a seamless integration with solar grid. Brushless DC motors, the kind of efficiency which we have encountered is almost 65%. The power consumed by these fans, energy efficient fans by Atomberg, is around 28 watts, which is one third in terms of power consumption if you compare it with any regular fan, any AC induction motor fan. So this helps, reducing the load on solar grid. And if load is reduced on the solar grid, then installation capacity will go down, cost will go down. Other than these advantages, we have seen that manufacturability is very important. Since it is a mass product, we need to ease out manufacturability. All the processes are new for this product. So it is always good to do the modularity in design. So today, AC to DC converter is completely independent from motor and drive. An AC to DC converter is altogether a different expertise. There are manufacturers who have been manufacturing AC to DC converter, for example, laptop chargers. So there are empty number of vendors who would support if standards are defined for AC to DC converter for ceiling fan. And all the OEMs could then focus only on the motor and the drives. So it will simplify the manufacturability, and it will help in evolving the overall ecosystem for this new technology. So of course, standardization of AC to DC converter is required, and it is very much possible. With this new model in market, we have seen success. As I said earlier, more than 50,000 ceiling fans, which is the Renasa model which we launched last year, have been successfully installed. It has been appreciated very well with our 350 service partners. Customers are very happy because now the resolution time during service is very low. Electrician has to just replace the outside unit if it goes bad. And just to inform you, generally in brushless DC motor fans, heating is not there. So the motor life is good. But the uncertain part is AC to DC converter. If we are able to deal it separately, it is very easy to do service. And generally nothing goes bad inside the other part of motor. We have supplied more than 10,000 units to solar integrators. And since the product is almost 3 times in terms of energy efficient in terms of power, so it runs 3 times longer on inverter, and hence saving the cost of battery which is used in inverter systems. Now this is something which we have, so today we have almost 1 lakh happy customers. So we keep interacting with customers and we try to understand their pain area. So one of the key questions which was already there from day one when we launched the product, that is why customer is going to pay premium. So, and we saw that, and we had felt before launching this product that it could be difficult to sell the product at premium because cost of technology is little higher, and it will of course go down with economies of scale. But when we launched the product, we found that people in India are very well aware about the energy efficiency and its benefits. And LED has done its part very well. That education, that awareness has already spread. But customers don't have any option in ceiling fans. So there was a need. And talking about the saving and the benefits, every brushless DC motor fan could save you in between 1,500 to 2,000 rupees a year. So within 2 years period of time, you could recover complete cost of the product, and we offer 3 years warranty. So by the time your warranty is over, you will start earning money. And ceiling fans generally last for 10 years, 15 years. So you could calculate how much saving any consumer could do. So this fact is very well appreciated, and that's the reason we have been seeing a good demand for this particular product. Finally, of course, a support is required from Discoms and government. So we have been participating in DSM program. I think Mr. Kadilkar will explain more about it. So we are running this program already for last 2 years with Tata Power and BACS Rajdhani, where we offer energy efficient brushless DC motor fans at subsidized rates. Government role is going to be very critical. This is also our understanding from market. Consumers have good understanding of a star rating. Many of them will not understand what is 35 watt, what is 28 watt, what is 78 watt, but they understand the rating. Like they have mindset that if it is a 5-star rated fan, it is going to be a better technology, energy efficient technology. So there is a need to revamp the energy star rating. So if the service value greater than 6.5 is imposed for 5-star rating, then only BLDC fan will be 5-star rated, and that will generate a good pull in the market, and that will help us in selling more brushless DC motor technology based fans. So with that, I would like to end my presentation, and I would be happy and open for answering the questions at the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manoj. I think this is very, I would say, encouraging results that almost 1 lakh of this NSA model has been uptaken and you have happy customers. The payback is very interesting, definitely. And the idea that you said that this modularity of taking out the AC to DC converter outside the core design actually improves your warranty and services quality, as most of the failures actually that happens in fan comes from the electronic side. So I think like it will definitely be very interesting to understand like how adopting this modular design has actually also helped you on your supply economics. So that we will keep it for later. But thank you very much. Now I would request Shekhar Khadidkar from Tata Power to share his experience around DSM, what consumer insights emerge, how it becomes valuable to the Discom, and how he thinks where fans-based DSM can play a good role for utility, and what asks he would have to really take it to really as a national program. So, Shekhar, please start your discussion.
Yes, Rahul, thank you. Good afternoon to all. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, your screen and noise is all clear, Shekhar. Continue, please.
Okay, great, great. Thank you very much. Yeah, I am from Tata Power Mumbai Distribution, and in my first slide,
Shekhar, you have to click your screen and then go for next. Yeah, now press next.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I'll just give a overview for some of you if you are not aware about Tata Power. Tata Power is one of the largest integrated power sector company in India, as well as it has got large presence abroad. So in India, we have got more than 10,000 megawatts of capacity, including thermal, hydro, wind, waste heat recovery, as well as solar. And we have certain transmission capacity within India and abroad, as well as there are distribution centers, Discoms. We function as Discom in Mumbai, as well as Delhi, North Delhi, and there are some Discoms at Rajasthan as well. So within all this overview of Tata Power, I'm just going to speak about Mumbai Discom, where we have been rolling out various DSM programs. And what I'm saying is particularly relevant to Mumbai Discom load. Okay, so demand side management is a relatively recent development in India and is not very well picked up so far. So demand side management, people are not exactly aware that what utilities are supposed to do or what utilities are doing abroad under DSM initiatives. So DSM is, these are the activities where electricity discoms influence the end use of electricity in a way which will help them to get the desired load curve. So there are several strategies to manage your load curve. And the load curve, if the load curve is better managed, the utility cost benefit as well as utility commercials are improved, as well as management of the load by a discom becomes much simpler. So there are various strategies. There are programs even to fill the valley in night when the load goes down, and there are programs to manage your peak so that you can flatten your load curve. So if you see under this, there are several now regulatory as well as policy frameworks available within Maharashtra Mumbai is within Maharashtra, and this the whole thing of DSM, what I'm talking about, is relevant to Maharashtra. So in EC policy recently, which has been opened, where demand saving of 1000 megawatt is expected, and various measures have been envisaged for effective implementation of Electricity Act 2001 and creation of necessary infrastructure. Particularly for demand side management, there are regulations in place since 2010. So three DSM regulations outlining guiding principles, framework, and cost assessment measures for DSM program are already there. Discoms are expected to make DSM an integral part of their day-to-day operation, as well as plan and execute DSM programs on a sustained basis. Discoms are allowed to recover justifiable DSM costs through their ARR framework. So this is the way the Discoms are supposed to integrate the energy efficiency, energy conservation, and demand side management within their day-to-day activities. This is the objective of government also. To show you the typical case of Mumbai. Mumbai is a commercial capital of India, and since last 10-15 years, the commercial load is increasing rapidly within Mumbai. Most of the industrial units are going out of city, and they are being replaced by malls as well as commercial complexes. And what is happening is all these new load is practically adding the load only in peak time, whereas in off-peak time, this is not an RTC load, round-the-clock load. So off-peak time load keeps going down. So this type of scenario is very difficult to manage for the utility commercially as well, because the peak power prices go quite high. So to manage this, DSM is a good tool, and we try to use that tool in Mumbai to manage our load as well. So what do you do, and how do you decide that now you are talking about BLDC fan? For a Discom, even if it is a BLDC fan or AC or some other equipment, it doesn't make much difference. For us, everything is a load, and whatever load is we are able to manage, or we are able to shift, or we are able to control, we are happy with that type of load. So to identify where our effort should be concentrated, what we do is we do a scientific load research activity, which involves automated meter reading data, energy audits, as well as questionnaire-based data, market research, load survey, different focused audits of different companies. And we design that how our load is being managed overall in a daytime. The load is different in seasonally as well as on weekdays, holidays, Sundays. It is different load pattern. So we need to understand how and who is contributing at what time and whether it is controllable or not. This right hand side graph, if you see, this is for residential customers, and you will find that there are different gadgets which are showing the pattern of their usage and their contribution in the residential load. So particularly you will find that the geysers, which is showing a blue peak in early morning time, is over here, whereas there are refrigerators, this brown line, which is continuously round the clock, which is consuming load. Similarly, there is some over here, the green line on the top, which is a ceiling fan load. So the ceiling fan, what we observed through our load research, and load research is a quite comprehensive activity where you try to understand that which appliance contribute how much to your load and at what time. So through all this activity, we found out that there are how the various appliances and what is the consumer behavior towards that appliance, and can we really control those appliances. So on the basis of this load research, we design our DSM portfolio. So for residential customers, what we decided is that home appliance exchange program should be rolled out. So this program particularly consists of air conditioners, refrigerators, ceiling fans, LED bulbs, and LED tubes. With these 5 appliances, we are able to cover almost 90% of the customer's load. So if we promote the schemes for the energy efficiency of these appliances, it is beneficial for customer as well as it is beneficial for customers. We offer specific recommendations through energy audits. There are certain programs which we offer for promoting the load shift. These are thermal energy storage as well as demand response programs. Then there are some specific programs for large customers who consume a lot of hot water, as well as who has got some specific highly energy inefficient appliances. So like this, we decide where we should concentrate and what should be our strategy to take this further. So as I suggested, this an appliance exchange program, we selected these 4 appliances, and out of which BLDC fan, we found out that it can bring my load from 75 watt to 30 watt. We saw that in a city like Mumbai, which is quite humid, hot, and it is different from the rural area where people continuously use the ceiling fan. And we found that in weekend days, the fans are running more than 20 hours a day. So on working days, they are running for 12 hours. So this one thing we concentrated, and we rolled out a program for BLDC fan. Similarly, we rolled out program for split inverter air conditioners, where we could bring down the efficiency, improve the efficiency by 30 to 40%. Similarly, energy efficient refrigerator program we rolled out, where we found that the earlier old refrigerators consumes almost 3 kilowatt hours per day, and we could bring it down to around almost 0.8 kilowatt hours per day. LED tube lights also we could bring down from 50 watts to 28 watts. And all these programs were well appreciated by the customer, and we could launch these programs. So under BLDC program, what we did initially, we had launched a program of 5-star ceiling fans. But since 2016, we observed that new technology is coming in the market. Though it is quite costly than the fans available in the market, they were also equally highly efficient. And somebody needed to guide the customer towards BLDC ceiling fan. So we ourselves purchased few ceiling fans. We tested them in our labs. We took the comfort level satisfaction from the user, and then we decided, okay, this technology can be promoted. But if you want to promote this technology, you have to see that the customer gets satisfaction. So the satisfaction, there are 2 basically values. One is air delivery, because earlier there used to be energy efficient fans, but they were not satisfying in the air delivery. So we ensured that the air delivery of these fans is much above the required, that is 215, and the service value is also much above required. There is more than 4 up to 6. So we decided that this fan is giving quite satisfactory comfort to the customer, as well as it is giving convenience of remote control. So we decided to promote this program, and we promoted this program since last more than 2 years. We are trying to promote it, but it has been picked up in last 1 year, and now people are quite aware of BLDC technology, and they are also appreciating. As a Discom, it is our duty to see that the customer gets a real convenience and satisfaction. So to ensure that, we have seen that the manufacturers are giving 3 years warranty. We ensure that each and every customer gets that warranty without even being asked a question. So customer knows that Tata Power is behind them when they purchase program from Tata Power. We offer certain incentive to bring down the cost. So the BLDC fans are available in market from 3,300 to 4,000 rupees. We do the bargaining, we bring down the cost by reverse bidding and other mechanisms. And further to that, we provide certain incentive to the customer, so that the total cost to customer comes down to almost 50%. So a 3,600 rupees fan is being sold through Tata Power program at 1,600 to 1,800 rupees. And this is much comparable to the other fans in the market. And that is why customer is very happy to replace exchange his fan and promote the energy efficiency. So this is the way we promote this program. BLDC fan is only one part of our DSM program. But since the technology is useful, convenient, and now reliable, we have decided to concentrate on this, and we are slowly increasing the quantity in our program. So that's all from our side as a Discom under BLDC programs, and we'll continue this discussion further. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Shekharji. I think very valuable. Thank you
Yeah.
for Tata Power actually attempting this technology and appliance and drawing some good experience. I think what I found very interesting was the price point you mentioned that through different initiatives you were able to come down, and actually the replacement of the appliance and exchange program really worked well with a very good pricing option. So great,
Great.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we would have our another speaker, Neil Kamhane. Neil comes from Shoalshare, and they have been running fairly successfully some of very advanced microgrids, and he will share some of his Bangladesh and also recent India experience. So Neil, please continue.
Hello. Let me know if I'm audible and the presentation is visible, then I'll start.
This Neil, you are audible and screen is clear. Thank you. Continue.
All right. So just to give a little more background to add to what Rahul just introduced us as. So Soulshare builds peer-to-peer localized energy trading microgrids in rural areas. Now, why do we come down to building grids in rural areas, and why do we approach at building something that's peer-to-peer? So let me start with setting some context in terms of energy poverty. I know we've been talking about primarily about AC appliances and urban areas, but the context that we operate in is slightly different. And even today, there are about 2 billion people across the globe that lack access to reliable electricity. And when we look at our customers in Bangladesh, so about 5 years ago, when the co-founders and I, when we got there and we were conducting a few researches to kind of understand the market a little better, we realized that a lot of the users are paying about $3.50 per kilowatt hour and about $10.50 per kilowatt hour to charge a mobile phone and a light, respectively. And if you look at that, this is a lot more. This is drastically a lot more than what we are paying in our urban households. And this is the case across the globe. And the bottom of the pyramid actually ends up paying about 100 times more than what we see in urban areas. So another interesting fact about Bangladesh and why Bangladesh was selected for our approach and to start building this form of the microgrid was that there are over 5 million systems that have been installed, and there are 25 million people in the last 15 years. So thanks to development grants and an organization called IDCOL that was set up in Bangladesh, about 5 million systems have been set up across Bangladesh. And this is the primary energy source for about 30% of the population already. So these are off-grid areas that have been off-grid for predominantly the last 15 years. And now even that the national grid is approaching, people still continue to use their solar home systems. So the whole idea was, why let go of this existing asset? We might as well use this asset and create energy trading grids where we can share energy amongst ourselves and power larger appliances. Now, just to explain the concept again, we set up the grids in areas where people might have solar home systems or not, and it's usually a mix of the different kind of customers in different areas. And the people that do have solar home systems can simply set up a prepaid energy metering device, which we call the Sol box. So every household sets up a Sol box. We interconnect them through physical cables, and we set up an ICT infrastructure to enable energy trading. These are all IoT enabled devices. So we can track, and they're all mobile money integrated. So everyone can just top up their box, much like you top up your prepaid mobile phone. And as long as they have balance, they can buy energy. And as soon as they sell energy, they make money instantly. So this was something that we started with about 5 years ago, and it has been growing and it has been developing in different stages. And we are primarily operating only in LVDC conditions. So all the solar home systems I talked about earlier, these are 12-volt systems. They started, like I said, in the late 90s and early 2000s, and haven't really changed drastically. So a localized market for manufacturing for specifically batteries was created, and this is exactly why it hasn't changed since then. It is slowly changing going forward, but I'll talk about that a little later. So moving on, it's about appliances. So until now, most of our users used only about a couple of light bulbs and mobile charging, and that would be fine. This conversation was fine about 10 years ago, but this is changing fast and people's demands are growing much faster. So if you look at the state in Bangladesh right now, there are about 40% users that already use a table fan, because that was the only thing that was available then. So most of the customers that we go to today ask either for a DC fan or they're asking us when they can get an AC next. So the willingness to pay and ability to pay has definitely increased, but the availability of these appliances don't exist. And if you look at the appliance market, and I think Rahul did go through this a little in brief earlier, but in Bangladesh it's much smaller. But if you look at India's context, it's almost 10 times in all these conditions. And the graduation from one appliance to the other is pretty clear in the context that we operate in. And another interesting report that was done last year by the Efficiency for Excess group kind of puts it in context in terms of what kind of appliances are more better for impact and what kind of appliances do our consumers want. So LED lights was very basic. I think that's the first thing for anyone that wants to get connected and get reliable electricity. The second biggest demand, surprisingly, happened to be televisions. But from a development perspective, or even in terms of energy efficiency perspective, this is not a big conversation. However, a lot of our users do want to step up to that next. And the next big one that comes into play is refrigeration. So cooling definitely is big, but it's still further down the line, because people are living in rural areas and people do like fans, but there are different categories of fans that they are offered right now. So there are table fans, there are standing fans, and there are ceiling fans. And depending on the availability, their preference has changed over time. So going back to what I was talking about earlier, so we basically divide the different segments into different tiers. Like I said, about 10 to 15 years ago, light charging and mobile phones was enough, and that was cutting it. But going forward in the last few years and moving forward, I think everyone wants a fan and TV. That's one of the biggest demands that we see going forward. And in the next 5 years from now, or even in the next couple of years, what we see is that refrigeration is going to become big, and most households at home would also want to use refrigeration instead. Another very interesting conversation that comes into place, specifically in rural areas, is how can we bring back economy driving assets to the village instead of having, we see a lot of migration specifically in Bangladesh. So a lot of the areas that we operate in, the people in the next generation have moved to different cities such as Dhaka and Chittagong, and very few people that are still remaining in cities. It is much like the condition that we see in India, and it's only going to aggravate going forward. So what we're trying to do as well is trying to support different productive use appliances. This is a very big conversation in the space. So we're looking at powering poultry farms through egg incubators. We're trying to power sewing machines through BLDC motors, DC fridges, which are more efficient, trying to get rice hullers and rice polishers, electric DC trimmers. So this is what the market there is in Bangladesh is looking for, as well as in India in rural areas. People are very aware of what they're using, and in terms of their understanding of appliances and efficiency, it's very interesting. So going back to the concepts of solo home systems, until now everyone owned their own asset. So all these solo home systems were bought by the users through a lease to own model, where through a microcredit model they would pay a down payment, and with over 2 to 3 years they would start owning the system. And once they owned the system, all the electricity was theirs. They were producing it, they were using it. So the idea of energy efficiency was not very prevalent. But since we've been setting up these peer-to-peer microgrids, what has started to happen now is that they get metered for this, and that's where it becomes interesting. So we also play an active role in trying to educate our consumers about how they are consuming these appliances and how much they're consuming and how much they'll have to pay for each consumption. We are primarily offering these solutions in off-grid areas. So here, the value of that energy is a lot more than it would be in urban area. So this idea of energy efficiency is very clear to our users, and it only gets more clear by how much I can actually give them access to their own information. Coming back to the Indian context, there was another interesting report that had come out earlier this year, and it kind of gives an idea of what the supply metrics in some of the most energy poor states in India have, and how much.
Your screen is not visible, Neil. Can you accept
Is it visible?
share your screen so that it becomes visible?
Is it visible now?
Not yet, Neil. Yamini, can you share invite to Neil to share his screen? Uh, Yamini, you have to share Neil's
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah. Can you see my screen now?
Not yet, Neil.
Yes, Neil, we are able to see your screen now. Please go ahead.
Okay.
All
Okay,
right.
this is good now. Please, Neil, continue.
Okay. So yeah, what I was saying is that the primary time when people want to use electricity is between 6 p.m. to 12 p.m. This is in the evening hours. That's when electricity is not available. And this is going to improve hopefully in going forward, but right now that's not the condition. So in states like UP, Bihar, Odisha, and Rajasthan, you don't see these numbers. And what is more interesting is that enterprises have been left out of this picture. So you do have single phase connections in households when the grid has been extended and India has got 100% grid electrification. But enterprises where I can set up and run my own local businesses need three phase connections. So for rice hullers, for irrigation pumps, for a lot of these things, we do need three-phase connections, and that is not really accessible yet. So an interesting thing that we have been looking for in this context is the integration between the DC and AC world. Now, as the national grid is approaching these areas, which is fantastic, and we are operating already in these areas, the challenge is between the AC and DC world. Most of our consumers naturally would want to be able to start using the AC appliances as well, but they can't have two parallel connections, much like what Rahul described earlier. So one approach that we were looking at was looking at something like a point of common coupling, which is basically a metering device between the AC connection and the DC grid. And what this could do is the users would continue to use their DC appliances and the DC existing assets, while they would be able to also interact with the grid and import energy from the grid when it exists. And when it doesn't, they continue to rely on the assets that they already have. So this could be done at two stages. One could be that you could look at this approach at, say, at a transformer level. The other approach that could be looked at is at a more household level. That's what most users are inclined towards, but that is a little more complex to offer. But this is an active space where a lot of research needs to go in, and a lot of interesting models and ideas are being discussed. Now going back to the context of what SoulShare is doing, what we are doing in rural Bangladesh and India is not only meant for rural areas. Going forward, I think solar rooftops is going to become a big conversation and a big mandate. We're seeing a lot of interesting policies that are coming across in different states in India already, and we have already seen a lot of interesting development, specifically in Europe. So once we already and we see a lot of transition that's happening specifically in countries like Germany, where people are choosing to step away from the grid and set up their own solar home systems for self-captive consumption. And only when they have excess energy do they start selling back to the grid. And this is another way of looking at energy efficiency and is very effective, because you don't need to depend on long transmission and distribution lines to take and manage this. So even people like Tata Power are in discussion with us, and we are actually actively engaging with them in Delhi, where we're part of the social alpha cohort, where we are looking at these approaches, where this would become very interesting. And instead of having a centralized control unit where you're generating and distributing, it would be more about managing these energy flows and ensuring that everyone has adequate power when they require it. So that's basically it from me. And yeah, I'm looking forward to more questions from everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. I think very useful insights. I think what I picked was enterprise access is still weak, not only in India and outside. So that's there some work needs to happen. Integration of AC/DC world, I think it has now become a global discussion topic. Very fortunate is like India is actually leading this discussion with some
Absolutely.
very good happening in IIT Chennai. So really great about it. And one very useful point you brought, which I think we'll discuss and also possibly pick some of Shekhar's inputs as well on rural versus urban. Some of our learnings and some of the interventions which we started thinking from rural context are becoming very applicable to urban. So how do we really manage these two things, especially with focus on such energy efficiency and energy access types? So now with that, I invite our other speakers, Dr. Bruno Lepi and Soleda, and share their experience around looking this energy efficiency angle from different countries. What are those common observations and insights they have built to drive some programmatic interventions to really influence and create markets around energy efficiency and access. So Dr. Bruno and Soleda, we look forward. Please continue.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Soleda, but yes, now we are able to see the screen as well. Please.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for the introduction and for giving us this space today. Sorry. There, okay. So I would like to quickly introduce United for Efficiency, which is an initiative part of the United Nations Environment Program. And I would like to start just with this figure and just a quick mention to the Paris Agreement, which I'm sure that you already know very well, and the urgent need to limit the global warming to well below the 2 degrees. And the quickest, the quickest and most effective way to achieve this is by improving energy efficiency. Energy efficiency usually is rather overlooked when compared with other energy sources, as renewables, although its potential is much higher, as you can see in this figure. And this actually makes total sense, since what is the point on developing clean and renewable energy if we don't strive to use it in an efficient way, right? So based on this context, United for Efficiency is created in 2014. United for Efficiency is a public-private partnership created to support the second goal of the UN Secretary General C4All initiative, which is to double the global rate of improvement in energy efficiency. U4E has the support from a large number of partners, from manufacturers and industrial associations to technical organizations that help us to deliver the project activities, and of course, funders. So we are in touch with the most important manufacturers as Signify, Osram, Masbe. As you can see here, U4E is present in more than 30 countries worldwide, providing technical and tailored support to transform the country's markets by accelerating the adoption of energy efficiency products, both for country-level projects to regional projects as well. So, leading examples from around the world point to the need that we need an integrated set of policies to allow this transformation, this transition to energy efficiency products rather than just one policy. So the U4E projects are structured in what we call the integrated policy approach, which is a comprehensive and sustainable and proven pathway based on these 5 pillars: minimum energy performance standards, labeling and communication, finance and affordability, monitoring, verification and enforcement, and environmentally sound management, which allows for multiple benefits such as market penetration, technology improvement, price reduction through different financial mechanisms, the strive to a national strategy to develop maps, and so on. So this is an example I wanted to show you. This is what we would recommend for lighting, but this could be easily applied to any product, such as fans that we are talking today. So we emphasize setting mandatory performance requirements as a cornerstone for everything else that we need to be done. Then we can move to promote the energy efficiency products through labeling, awareness campaigns, financial mechanism, and so on. And for energy efficiency products to penetrate the market, any country where we work, we monitor it after we implement these measurements to enforce the maps that we originally established, and finally to make sure to properly dispose the obsolete replaced products. So this becomes like a circle. So this is why we say that this is a sustainable approach. As you already know, household energy demand have a huge share on the country's energy consumption, with very sharp increase projections in the upcoming years that you can see in this figure, especially for the first three items that are cooling, appliances, and lighting. And there's no wonder why United for Efficiency focus in these 5 products, specifically in lighting, room air conditioners, refrigerators, distribution transformers, and motors, electrical motors, that altogether represent 50% of the total energy consumption. And therefore, these products, it's the ones that U4E addresses, and we look forward to extend our share of products to fans, to communication technologies. So we are working on expanding our scope. Here's an example from India on the potential energy, financial, and CO2 savings from this transition to more energy efficiency products. For example, just targeting these 5 products that I just mentioned, India could achieve 175 terawatts of electricity savings, 10 millions of US dollars from the electricity savings, and 200 million CO2 emissions mitigation. So I just finally wanted to mention some of the tools and resources that the U4E has available to everyone from our webpage, such as the country saving assessment that I just mentioned before, or the policy guides that we have one for each of our products, or the model regulation guidelines that we also have one for each of our products, the product registry system guideline. All these products are available in our webpage, so please feel free to step by and have a look to all our resources. So I'm now going to leave you with my colleague, Mr. Bruno Lafitte, that's going to explain a little bit more about our experiences in the countries where we are working on. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Soleil. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot. Please keep your screen on. I cannot share my screen right now. So we talk about minimum energy performance standards because I did the presentation before, so that's very good. We are moving forward very well, very quickly. However, we must consider that using off-grid products needs battery. And when we talk about battery, we talk about environment impact, and lead batteries you can find thousands of lead batteries that are not used in different countries, and this is a disaster for environment. That's why I will focus on minimum energy performance standards. But first, few numbers for off-grid solar sector. In 2017, there is about 73 million households that have access to electricity thanks to off-grid solar sector. Cumulative sales of devices is quite impressive, 130 million devices from 2010 to 2017. As we've seen before, Pico Solar products are the main products in the market right now. It's about Pico Solar is just for lighting and for mobile charging. So because solar products are about 85% of cumulative global sales. But funds are growing. The sector is growing very fast, and solar home system funds will be inside solar home system is about now 13% and plug and play 2%. But you can see here what is the forecast till 2022. Here you can see the share of PNP and solar home system is increasing a lot compared to Pico Solar. Next slide, please. Yeah. So Pico Solar, I did mention, is just a lantern with maybe mobile charging. Plug and play solar home system can include television. We did talk about it. Well, this is the second demand of people. It depends on the country, I guess, and on the region, because in Africa the second demand is for funds, and so plug and play solar home system can include funds, and component based system are more complex with PV module, battery, inverter, and so on. Next slide, please. So how can we do? Solé did present you a comprehensive approach, but first we have to engage all stakeholders with us. So the government can play a role in that, and could help industry to scale up the market, and it's necessary. How can it do that? Through transparent national policy first. We need a clear policy, what will go on, where will be the grid, and how can we work together off-grid market, the off-grid solar system, and on-grid. It's not competitive access for electricity. It can come together. So here I don't have time to talk about an example of a very good program, the regional off-grid electrification project in Africa, and so we consider together off-grid solar system and on-grid coming in households, and both can work together. But for that we need a transparent national policy. Secondly, we need to establish MAPs and labeling, MAPs, minimum energy performance standards. We need that to make the best use of the electricity that we've got from the solar system, from the PV system first, and to decrease the capacity of the battery, which is which is a critical point. I know that the Bureau of Energy Efficiency is making maps and labeling for India. They did it for selling fans, for LED, but on grid, there's no maps on off-grid system, as far as I know, at least in India. That's why I did work on maps for Najaya, for an example, for Pico Solar System, and I look forward to standing for solar home system. Yeah, next slide, please.
Sorry, I think the polling has hid the screen. Yamini, can we give the slide back?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. I didn't finish the slide before, Soleil. I think. No, it's okay. Because it was the poll, and yes, to answer the poll, if I could, I would say yeah, the Bureau of Energy Efficiency can play a strong role for scaling up fund sector. So a long-term approach also is needed. A robust policy framework with, for an example, lower taxes for green products or increases taxes for kerosene lamps. We've seen some picture just before, or to play on import tariffs. But just a lesson that we've heard, no subsidy. People must know that they buy something, so it has a value. It's quite important. Even if it's a very low price, we need to ask for money for those products, just to put value in that. So next slide, please. A long-term approach is needed. Well, when we engage stakeholders, we need to sustain the growth of the market, and to sustain it, we need to base our approach on small and medium enterprises. There are quite a few thousands of enterprises, and we need to train them to sustain the market growth. We need also to finance them, and this is a key point, because they need cash, they need money, and there are different tools. For an example, microfinance for distributors, capital equipment loans. This can be used. Microfinance is a quite powerful tool through microfinance investment vehicles. Pay-as-you-go system is also a financing system. This is more for customer. You know, we give them products, not give them, we sell products, and we have pay-as-you-go system to guarantee payment by consumers. So this enterprise is having money in. This is a quite good system, but we have here some ethical issues. But it is a system that we can promote. Next slide, please. So just an example of maps now. I'm coming back on maps because this is a key point for me. So let's talk about lighting. Well, the same kind of approach can be used for funds, of course. And for lighting, for an example, in Morocco, we had three kind of technologies: incandescent lamps, compact fluorescent lamps, and LEDs. So what we decided to do is to in 5 years, to get rid of inefficient source of light, incandescent, of course, and compact fluorescent lamps, and to go for high efficient LED lights in 5 years. So we put some efficiency criteria to get rid of inefficient lamps. Next slide, please. Thanks a lot. So first steps to put maps and to make maps in place. So it was focused on lighting. Sorry, I forgot to change for fonts. First we need to make a market assessment. What do we have in the market? What can be the efficacy level of funds? If we talk about funds, where we can place the threshold. So for every technology, we need to know the efficacy lifetime, the time we can use it, the affordability of this technology, because you can have high efficient funds, but too expensive for people, so we cannot afford it, and what is the natural trend and the expectation of people. So secondly, we need to know what are the regulations in place, or what is planned, and this is very important. We did talk about it for grid electrification. And then a very important part is consultation with stakeholders. I mean, when we put in place maps, what is the goal of maps? The goal of maps is to promote high efficient products, but also affordable products, we've seen it, and to boost the market, because we want to boost the market on those products. So to protect serious manufacturer, let's say, that sell quite efficient products, and to get rid of non-efficient products that are on the market. So you have a few sentences, but I ran out of time, I think. So I will let you read those sentences later. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the end of my talk. I guess I run out of time now, so Soleil will take all question later. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Bruno, and thank you, Soleda, for very interesting discussions all around lightings, but I'm sure it's very relevant in fan context. I think I will use some of the pointers that you raised for discussion with specificity around fan with other fellow speakers, so that we can really get some top level action items which we can take it forward from uh, here. One very important point, and maybe this is question for you, Shekharji. Like when we are talking of bringing energy efficiency to household appliances, right? While utility has a perspective of optimizing its supply cost to the customers, one very important context, maybe less for urban, but more for rural, where the supply quality in terms of number of hours, reliability of power is weak, which ties to energy excess. Do you think or believe, Shekharji, in Indian context, for some feeder or rural areas, if the Discom is committed, tie up with some relevant financial sources to fund energy efficient fans, then can that saving that accrue to that region because of this energy efficiency, can that be converted to more prolonged energy access with high quality to the rural customers? Can this kind of a, I don't know if we can say policy, but this kind of a commitment from Discom of really converting energy efficiency to some currency which a user understand in terms of improved supply, can that work in Indian context? Shekharji.
Yeah, Rahul, I think the Discom role has to be properly defined, because Discom is in the business of selling the electricity, not saving the electricity. However, they are doing this demand side management, but the main purpose should be to create awareness among the people, because they have got a reach to every consumer, and so that at least we look from this side that we will be able to bring the awareness in the people, will motivate them to purchase to the energy efficiency products, and in turn it will be benefiting the Discom. But if you put the whole responsibility of selling these goods through Discom and incentivizing the customer through Discom, I don't think that will work in most of the rural areas. And after seeing the experiment with DSM with utilities, later on government decided that let us form some agency like Energy Efficient Services Limited, EESL, who can on a national scale roll out the programs, and even without the subsidy, with their purchasing power, they can bring down the cost and supply the energy efficient appliances to any person who wants. So putting the responsibility on Discom is, I don't think, is a practical solution, because energy saving cannot be very clearly measured. Like suppose you put a solar plant and then you can clearly measure the energy generated by a solar plant, which can be said that the same energy has been generated bypassing the normal conventional system. But similar is not the case with the saving part. So regulators are always going to object for such initiatives, And you also know that the conditions of Discom in India is already precarious. So I don't think it's for some Discoms like ours who are in urban cities and who are quite having a financial strength can do several things. But other Discoms are I don't think that they will be able to take this load. The ideal central agencies like EESL should be the correct way to take this further.
Thank you, Shekharji. And my question was definitely not from that only Discom takes this responsibility. I completely agree, and I think Dr. Bruno and Solda present a good model where this problem of bringing the energy efficiency into mainstream would require multi-dimensional support. So one point was for Discom, but thank you for your thoughts. In fact, I will connect upon the point that you raised for an aggregator like EESL, which has developed a very strong Ujala scheme for LED lights in India. And
Correct.
because of that, tying the very bulk procurements and incentivizing discoms through subsidized loans and promoting. So I think that model is definitely a very good model. My question maybe is to Manoj. Manoj, from an OEM perspective, I hope you know what the Ujala program for LED bulbs and light was and what results it has given. What do you think could be a potential way for some agencies similar to ESL or anyone else to really create a similar program for fans? Does fan for its usage, for its energy saving potential, and where the technology exists of BLDC fan and capacity in India, do you think the country is ready for really taking up a similar to Ujala program for also BLDC fans, and what it will take to reach there if there are still gaps that you see as a country?
Right, Rahul. So, like Ujala program for LED, this is definitely a need of ours. Like for ceiling fan market, uh, such initiative will definitely help. Like today, most of the ceiling fan manufacturers are not participating at the level which is required, and there are certain reasons for that. LED was fairly easy product if we talk about technology. But people are facing some challenges in ceiling fan. There are bigger areas which need attention. Uh, like most of the ceiling fan manufacturers today are dependent on partners who are or suppliers who are doing the manufacturing, and that backend ecosystem is not ready. So ESL has launched one similar program few years back, and unfortunately the program got scrapped because uh, people were not ready. The big manufacturers, established manufacturers, were not ready with the technology. But now it is almost 3 years, and lot many people actually now have started working on this particular technology, and it is a requirement of backend ecosystem to be developed. uh, Talking about the manufacturability, because until unless that backend ecosystem is ready, we cannot bring the quality as well as cost, and cost and quality are the two critical parameters to make this thing successful. But now, as compared to 3 years back, now there are more people, ecosystem is mature, uh, and now if such program is there, it will definitely push larger manufacturers to participate. So and this also plays a significant role in awareness. So today we are doing our own sales, marketing, and awareness, but we are doing it at very small level. If a bigger momentum is bring uh, by an organization like ESL, the awareness level will be much higher, more people participating. And when more people are participating, volumes will shoot. And with higher volumes, cost will definitely go down. There are partners who are working on electronics, which is a new part, which is the major cost of if we talk about bill of material, that is a major source of cost. That is one area. That is one area which need volumes. If volumes are there, cost will definitely go down. And other part is all the ceiling fan manufacturers need to put or invest money in research and development. This is our own experience. Like for last 3 years, we have been investing heavily in research and development, and we were able to bring down the cost as well as at quality. So if you compare our 3 years old design and today, we have been able to bring down the cost by 25% almost, and that is pure design innovation. So I think there is a scope of design innovation which will bring down the cost as well as quality. And second part is bigger level awareness and mass manufacturing. I think it is matter of time. Now more people are ready for this thing, and a program like Ujala will definitely help.
Thank you, Manoj. I think that is definitely very good to hear that we can revive similar to Ujala program for fans, ceiling fans, and possibly table fans jointly. So I think we would be very interested to really pursue this thing under this particular program. So that will be a great addition. Dr. Bruno and Solda, like you have heard Shekhar views around some of the challenges faced by the utility to actually tie up energy efficiency with energy access. You have heard a manufacturer's perspective from India, where they believe that some kind of a demand incentivization can actually help them to add volumes and bring price reduction. I think Manoj also mentioned this very interesting thing that the design innovation and possibly separating the electronics from mechanical part, what we call it as AC/DC convergence, really helped them to kind of streamline their supply chain and one very critical element for price reduction. Any experience that you had in terms of helping this transition and starting of such market integration things wherever which country you have observed, what timelines to really expect these results? Like I think as India, we are fairly ready as what Manoj is saying on the manufacturing side of BLDC fans. There exists a minimum energy performance standards. I think it is only getting strengthened, what Manoj also highlighted through some new changes. Do you think with this, India is kind of ready to go for another Ujala kind of a leap for fan? Or there are any critical elements that you think are missing, including financing, like any direct end user financing innovation that can be useful for fans? Soleda and Dr. Bruno, are you there?
Yes. Hello? Can
Yes,
you hear
Soleda.
us?
Yes, we can hear you. Did you get my question?
Can you please repeat it?
Yeah, sure. So basically, I am saying like India with its BLDC fan, we are having manufacturing capacity. So there are multiple players now who are producing fans and have developed good expertise. So whatever led to some issues with the previous program of creating a similar to LED program at national level also for BLDC fans. You have any pointers specific to maybe India or any cross learnings from any country to really structure this program around BLDC fans?
Hmm. Yes, I think that now that you're starting this process, one good thing to have in mind is to try to harmonize the standardized process for DC fans to what neighboring countries might have. Standardized, I mean, having the same standards as neighboring countries or in the region helps a lot in terms of taking out barriers for having a more fluid commercial with neighboring countries, and even more if you have the manufacturers in the country. So this will help a lot in this sense. will help to expand the business and to eliminate barriers that may come from having different labelings or different standards, and that at the end makes the product more expensive also, because these are expenses that the manufacturers have to face. So eventually it's translated to the price of the product. So since you're starting with this process, and we encourage to have all labeling and maps and all the different pieces for transforming the fans market, to have also in mind this, to harmonize the standards with what's going on in the region as well.
Okay, sure. I think that's definitely good. I think that's where we are standing at the moment in terms of bringing a relevant and strong standard for BLDC fan. I don't know like how banning of existing fans, which was one of your recommendations, would work in India. So I think let's see how we can go about doing it, Soleda. So thank you. Now my last question is to Neil. We have other questions coming from users, but I think we have come out of time. My last question to Neil would be, Neil, how is your experience around creating a good financing mechanism to the end users in an off-grid setting to adopt and purchase a higher quality and energy efficient appliances? How are you able to tie it up with your microgrid models? I think Dr. Bruno and team did mention about importance of financing. So is there some learnings that you have done based upon your Bangladesh and Indian context? How can we bring a right financing instrument to take up this higher premium of energy efficiency appliance and drive more adoption of such appliances in more off-grid setting? But I think the relevance of that instrument and use will also remain to the urban as well. So any ideas and thoughts on that?
Right, absolutely. So in our context, it actually makes it a lot easier for us to operate, because there have been up to about 50 different partners that have set up the solo home system in the last 15 years. So they already have this
Okay.
well-established microfinancial model that they've used to sell solo home systems. So with our prepaid energy meters getting involved, this only makes it a lot easier. So with our meters getting involved and with the grid being set up, what happens is that we users paying capacity and their ability to pay becomes a lot easier. So instead of having to pay every month, they can choose to pay every week or every day if they like. And in a pay-as-you-go model, they can actually pay through via mobile money, which is fairly popular in Bangladesh in rural areas. And they could pay as they please. And if they don't pay on time, then there are certain measures that are taken. And this is the microfinance model for solo home system distribution has been very popular, and even for other benefits. So I mean, the best way to do this is to piggyback on the same existing model and just modify it with existing technology to basically engage with different DC appliance manufacturers to start setting these up. And we are already engaging with local manufacturers for DC appliances as well. And much like what Manoj said, so BLDC fans is something that is very important and needs to be pushed right from a policy perspective. But what happens in our context as well is that there are a couple of producers that make AC DC compatible fans, so they can switch between the two different modes. And this is something which is gaining more popularity going forward, and we are actually looking at providing different financial incentives for the users to be able to adopt these, so that when they're buying energy from the grid, their costs reduces in terms of operation.
Great. I think that last point you mentioned really ties up well to what I made a quick presentation on AC/DC convergence. Like with the changing electricity paradigm, where users are thinking of shifting between DC AC, both in rural and urban settings for different reasons. I think like if appliances will have that kind of interoperability between the two supply systems, I think that design of appliances actually really holds a very good power to bring economy of scale. So I think this the design and AC/DC convergence. I think that I propose, Neil. Separately, we would want to take some of your detailed inputs on that. But it is encouraging to know that there will be a good case for energy efficient devices and appliances tied with rural grid models. And as Dr. Bruno has said, that this adoption will also be seen also in urban context. So I think this integration of energy efficiency at appliance level and improving access, I think is something that is really gaining momentum. So definitely very good. So
Just to add a
I
parting
think
thought,
with this, yes,
um, there's
please.
there's there's another very interesting thing that we came across in one of our grids that I was visiting recently. So a lot of LED bulbs are starting to get popular because of their clear energy efficient operation and the lower cost. But what they also have started doing is they've integrated these tiny little batteries inside the LED bulb itself. So even when the national grid is out, these light bulbs continue to operate for about 2 to 3 hours. And so I think the appliance manufacturers broadly, globally, actually need to start focusing on how they can build appliances for both contexts. And I think you put it very well in terms of the interoperability needs to be focused on while building these appliances. So yeah,
Great,
that's it
great.
from me.
One parting thought from you, Manoj, because I think everything is kind of coming central to producers and OEMs to be able to drive right innovations and bring down the cost. So if I kind of say that out of the 5 million ceiling fans, for example, getting sold in India on a yearly basis, if, for example, let's say 1 million of them becomes available through another kind of, so that's the volume if kind of some kind of a policy if government is able to commit on a yearly procurement of BLDC fans, what kind of price reduction we are looking at, Manoj? Just if you can give a positive momentum to all this thing by giving a very encouraging and practical number, I think that will set the tone which India should really start working towards that new national program for BLDC fans.
Right, Rahul. So there are two parts basically which I would like to address. One is the mechanical design of motor, and other is electronic design of motor. Electronics is something which where price goes down significantly, volumes are there. 1 million is a very good number. When we talk with semiconductors manufacturers, then we get this idea, and even EMS partners who are actually electronic board manufacturers. So we get a clue from them that if volumes are close to 1 million, then we can definitely get advantage of price reduction up to 15%, right? And another part is mechanical, where I am talking about copper, aluminum, and the basic accessories required in ceiling fan. So their innovation is going to play a significant role, rather more than volume, because in ceiling fan industry, it is already a commodity, like it is a metal price, right? But what you could do is you can bring innovation and you can optimize the motor. So that is kind of experience I'm sharing, which we have experienced in Atomberg. So if I talk about copper in brushless DC motor, you could get same efficiency by reducing copper content by 50%. In regular fans, copper content is approximately 200 grams, right? And we are able to make it within 105 grams, which is 50% of that copper content. Similarly, since heating is not there inside the motor, so you get rid from the metal enclosure. Like in traditional fan, heating is that high that you have to use metal enclosure, and that increases cost. It is mainly a die casting cover. So there you can upgrade your motor with new material like injection molding parts or ABS grade material. That is also going to help us in reducing the overall cost. So I think both mixture of volume and innovation will definitely bring down the cost. And we have big hopes in coming time. And we have been like doing these things for last 3 years. And 1 billion is a good number. Even ESL last tender was approximately 1 billion target. I hope if such a scheme is such a scheme comes again, it will definitely bring down the cost significantly.
Great. I think this is very encouraging. Maybe let's tie up with Dr. Bruno and Soleda United for Efficiency team to really see how India can really raise this strong program with all their global learnings. So I think, friends, with that, I thank you very much for staying longer by almost some 10, 12 minutes beyond our scheduled time. Thank you for all the fellow panelists and speakers for really bringing the wealth of knowledge and sharing very practical learnings. I am really hoping that India now move forward with its energy efficient BLDC fan program, but also take it to other productive appliance and other categories. So thank you everyone. We will be sharing the post event. There were polls that were conducted, so the results of it plus the recordings of this webinar and presentations will also be shared, and you will receive the link to be using it. Thank you everyone.